In this tutorial, we will create a responsive launch screen. Therefore, we will start with a setup with Illustrator. First, we will create the text for the launch screen, which will be displayed on top. For the width and the height, we pick the presetting of 425 pixels for width and height. Then we insert a text with the text fill tool on the left. For the font, we choose monotone, which is a commercially free, usable font, which you can find on FontScribble. A font size of 60 will be enough. We convert the text into paths and therefore into vector data. Then we change the color to white. Then we create a new file. This time with the width of 1152 and the height of 2048. Then we will create a form which is as equally big as the presetting we just chose. Then we apply a color gradient to the form. As you can see, we can switch between a linear color gradient and a color gradient which is something like a circle. We choose the linear color gradient and add the angle of -90. Then for the two colors, we choose on the top a dark blue and for the bottom a strong red. This will lead to a kind of purple color in the middle of the color gradient. Then we simply have to save both of these files as PNGs and transfer them later into the assets folder of our Xcode project. Therefore, we need to make sure that we export it with the resolution of 72 ppi. Otherwise, the resolution will be upscaled, and I recommend to not upscale the resolution because the resolution of the different images we just created shouldn't be too high to be quickly displayed when a user uses the application. We will create a new Xcode project and simply create a new app without a Git repository or core data. Then we will select the files we just created on the desktop and simply drag and drop it into the asset folder displayed on the screen. On the right side, when we click on the images, you can see the resolution which the images have. You can see this on the right bottom corner. Then we will create a new file with the type of a launch screen file. We simply give it a weird name to show you that you can select any launch screen file to be your launch screen file in the end, which then will load when you use the simulator and the app launches. When we go to the main settings and go to the launch screen file, we can simply select the launch screen file we like to use. Then we go into the launch screen file and select the view. It's very important that you select the view and nothing else. There you can disable two options, Save Area Layout and Save Area Relative Margins. Then we click on the layers beneath the view and simply delete them. Then we select the view, and on the view we create an image view. As the image source, we select the background we created, and for the content mode, we use aspect fill. Then we add 4 constraints for the view and simply select 0 for each constraint. This will lead to a mistake, as you will see soon. Since we didn't click on constraint to margins, On the left and on the right side, we still have two constraints of 20. We simply have to renew the constraints. Now we delete the constraints, so we can run into a few errors you will see later. Then we create a new image view on top of the image view we just created and select the foreground with the text responsive. Then we click on another simulator, which is the iPad, and can see that our launch screen is not responsive yet, and we did a few mistakes. When we click on the image view on the background, we see there are no constraints in place. So we add a constraint on the top, which will lead to the fact that there's no bottom constraint, and therefore the image is bigger than the screen itself. On the right side with the alpha, we can select which part of the color gradient can be seen on the screen. Then we simply add a constraint for the bottom. Now the screen size equals the displayed image. When we click on the iPad again to check if our launch screen is responsive, we see that for the full height it is responsive, but not for the full width. What is the problem? Now, for the responsive text on top, we select two horizontal constraints of 29. When we click on the constraints, we can see the constraints we just implemented. A top constraint and a bottom constraint, as well as two constraints for the text on top. We select the background and add two horizontal constraints, since these are missing. Now our background should be responsive again. When we click on the iPad as the simulator, we can see that our background is now responsive, but our foreground is not. There we only implemented horizontal constraints. Therefore, we have to add vertical constraints as well. So we add two simple vertical constraints for top and bottom and click Add two constraints. When we select the simulator of the iPad, we can see now that the background and the foreground is completely responsive and works on every screen size. Well done.